The most interesting thing about the NCAA championships is how unpredictable it can be. NCAA record holders don't even make finals. Past champions go home devastated. And just as often, champions defend titles and new records are set. It's some of the most exciting track and field around, and we're breaking it down for you here.
The latest from the world of running brought to you by AtoZrunning. I'm Andy.
And I'm Zach. And can a woman run under 4 minutes in the mile? What do you think, Andy? Do you think that's possible?
If anyone's going to do it, it's Faith Kipyegon. And she's going to be attempting this week to break 4.
I actually wanted your opinion. I wanted to know if
you think it's possible. It's so interesting because I wouldn't have thought, okay, but it's Faith Kipyegon. And I feel like she keeps defying what's possible. And so I do think she could do it. Yeah, I think there's a possibility.
She has to run over 7 seconds faster than her current world record.
That is a lot.
That's why I'm wondering if, percentage-wise, by the way, that is one of the most significant percentage drops in a record in recent years.
We'll see. Can't do it unless you attempt it, and I'm sure she'll have everything at her disposal because Nike has a lot invested in it.
The Nike Breaking 4 project drops June 26th. That is this week, depending on when you're listening to this. That is days from when we are saying these words, and you definitely want to check that out. And if you don't, we're going to let you know how it goes. And I am not saying this because I'm a pessimist, although I am fairly pessimistic, but the general running community does not think it's possible, which is kind of like a bit of like, if everyone believes in you, you are more likely to achieve the thing. Like this is proven. There's a great episode of I think it's the Invisibilia podcast. It's really old, but Carol Dweck, the growth mindset lady that did all that mindset research, she's a guest on the podcast, and they talk about an experiment with mice. Have I mentioned this before? Yeah. So in summary, the mice experiment is the researchers thought they had smart mice, even though they didn't. They were lied to, and they treated the mice differently, or they did something with the mice because the mice that were not supposed to be smart performed better than the mice that were dumb, except they were all
normal
the same.
Mice.
They weren't actually smart or dumb. They were just all the same. And so that led to this long conclusion through many other studies that we actually rise to the occasion. We meet expectations, believe it or not, as creatures. It doesn't even take humans to do that. So anyway, that makes it a little bit tougher for Faith Kipyegon because it sounds like not very many people believe in her, and that's difficult. However,
I think it's possible. I think that there is a possibility.
Well, this is the whole Roger Bannister 4-minute mile thing in the 50s, right? Where they said no human could do that. They just can't. Well, that's a dumb thing to say because there are so many things that can contribute to the advancement of human physiological potential, and whether it's ethical, whether it's unethical, whether it's technology aided or not, like all these kinds of things, just to say like the shoes that we wear today, 25 years ago, they would have said that is not a legitimate record because you're running in these shoes that are engineered to make you significantly faster. And then, of course, 25 years ago, they'd say that, but then 25 years before that, they'd say that those people in the 90s weren't legitimate records because they were also wearing shoes that, like, you see the thing. Yeah. It just keeps happening.
Oh, and that makes me curious. Is she going to debut a new Nike shoe?
Well, that's what they did the last time.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be surprising. At the very least, they are talking about some new apparel technology.
Okay.
That's been in the conversation.
That's not going to be nearly as helpful as shoes, but sure.
Yeah, well, anyway, we'll come back to that later, and maybe we'll have time to talk more about it today, and maybe not, but either way, it'll happen. But first, let's talk about Rome. When in Rome, run fast.
That's a good motto. I like that motto.
Except for this year, because it was hot.
Oh,
and so things weren't as fast as they might have been. Now, I say that, but what we're about to report to you all is going to sound really fast. So it's all relative, I guess. Starting with the women's 1,500 meters.
Yeah. And it was fast. It was conservative early on, but not slow.
Right.
So that set it up to still be a fast race. So the pace was reasonable, really, even though it was more conservative for the start. And it was the Australians that actually showed up. They ran fast.
They had their day.
Yeah, they had their day. Sarah Billings and Abby Caldwell both ran sub-4 for the very first time.
But not quite enough to win the race because it was Ireland's Sarah Healy who took the victory. And all 5 of the first 5 across the line were within 0.6 of a second
altogether,
of each other, or under. Basically, they're half a second apart. They're very, very close together. So it was an exciting race. It was not a record-breaking race, but that's okay. They don't know.
I think, though, it's great for PRs for it to be somewhat together like that, so there's not a lot of stringing out, and I think that can be beneficial if it's fast enough. And it was. We saw some personal bests in that group, and it happened in a more, I would say, physiologically good way, for lack of a better way to put it, because they started out more conservatively. All that to say, it was well set up for PRs.
Right on. So that leads us to the women's 5,000 then, which was also well set up for PRs because Beatrice Chebet did a world record attempt, but missed it. So you recall she did this in the 3,000 meters just recently and ran number 2 all time and just missed the world record there, but did run a Kenyan national record, which is exciting. This time, once again, she ran a Kenyan national record, but missed the world record held by Gudaf Sige, the 14 minutes and 0 seconds record, which is, kind of like a barrier by itself and a barrier in literal terms. And so Chebet ran after that record, and they had the pace lights, the wave lights, so you could tell if she was on or not. And there was a moment with like a lap and a half to go where the lights just started slowly pulling away from her, and you could just see like the fire kind of go out of her a little bit. Like, I can't do it, which is another reason why the wave lights are not my greatest. I'm not the biggest fan of them in all senses. But anyway, she ran 14:03.
Still
all-time
so
number
close,
2.
Yeah.
Very close. Kenyan national record, but not quite the world record. Now, you should know that Beatrice Chebet also actually is the first woman to ever run under 14 minutes in a 5,000 of any form. She did it on the roads, though, not on the track. So she has a road world record, but not the track.
And this was a good race for many in the field, and partly because whenever there's a world record attempt, it seems to pull other people to success. And in third, we saw Nadia Botticelli from Italy running an Italian record of 14:23.
Recall, she is the Olympic silver medalist in the 10,000 meters behind Beatrice Chebet in that Paris Olympics.
Wasn't a fluke, folks. She's
Not
actually
at
good.
all. She's been setting records for Italy. I think she holds 3 of them now or more. And so there you go. Continues on. And 14:23 is no joke. There are only a handful of women and only a few countries in the world that have records faster than that. One of them being the United States, just a shade faster. The U.S. record is 14:19, held by Alicia Munson. And USA's Josette Andrews in this same race ran U.S. number 3 time when she went 14:25. So not bad. Gudaf Sige, by the way, was in the race. She continues to struggle this season. She has just not looked quite as fast. Sharp. Sharp is the right word. She hasn't looked quite as sharp as she did last year when she was setting some of those records. But still running well in 5th place in 14:24. So
it's pretty normal, though, for athletes to have a really hot season and then have some time where they're not running as fast.
Yeah,
some build in the momentum. I understand that, but I think that when people are going hot, and they're like running super well, they have some dips, and that makes sense physiologically. Also, if they use periodization and she's not sharp yet, she had some downtime after she had her major successes last year.
Certainly could be. Yeah, Sige has actually had a few waves in her career now, because the first wave was when she set the world indoor mile record, was quite some time ago, and then had a kind of period where she just wasn't quite on the front end of the competitive spectrum. She was good, but she was not winning a lot of the races. And then, she had set a few more records and has been back to her winning ways recently, but now is struggling. Yeah, so the waves, that's typical. Speaking of athletes who are kind of riding these waves up and down, the men's 1500 featured Timothy Chariot of Kenya looking like his former self. And I keep thinking, so Chariot is like a figurehead right now in men's mile. He's the 2019 world champion. And that sounds like a long time ago. That was 6 years ago. And so it's like, oh, he must be getting pretty old now. He's only 29 years old.
Yeah.
So really, he's still in his prime competitive years. And yeah, don't count him out. But also, he's looking like he's gonna take the reins a little bit more again this season. And we'll
the most competitive field of all time, in the most competitive 1500 meter men ever in history.
Yeah, this event, we'll talk more about it here when we get to the next Diamond League meet to report on. But there's a lot going on there. But Francis Azzedine Hobbs is also looking fresh this season and nipped Chariot on the line, just barely caught him, 329. Behind them, Robert Farken of Germany ran a national record, 330. And in fifth place, Samuel Pilstrom of Sweden ran a national record, also in 330. So lots of fast running, lots of records going on there, national records all over the place. And that was just Rome.
Yeah, we have another Diamond League to report on.
As a matter of fact, at the moment that we're talking to you, something like 4 or 5 Diamond Leagues have happened because this is the stretch where they do like 2 of them a week. And so we're not going to report all of them at once right now because that would just be too much. And so we're going to give you half of them now and half of them next week when we share an additional update. So let's talk about Oslo next.
Yeah, let's start with the men's 800. So we had some good pacemakers there. Of course, Diamond League is always good for providing those, but it was Emmanuel Wenyani who was leading after the pacemakers, and he was out on his own with a surge after 400. So it looked like he was showing his dominance, but Jamel Sajadi was the first to challenge on the home stretch, and it looked like he would overtake Wenyani. And then we had Mohamed Atoui, who came up on the outside and closed quickly too. As these 800-meter runs are rarely ever like dominated. I feel that even if someone does take it out at 400, it ends up being just a crazy mess at the end of the men's 800 these days because we have so many good 800-meter runners. But it was neither Atoui or Sajadi who overcame Wenyani, because Wenyani actually answered. So it looked like they were going to overtake him. They caught him, but then Wenyani just held them off to the finish line. Had that final gear when they were knocking on his door, trying to chase him down. It was an exciting race.
He is known for that, but Atoui and Sajadi are both known to have vicious final 100-meter kicks as well. And so you just get this competitive level right now in the men's 800 where you really don't know who's going to win the race. You just don't. You can say all you want that Wenyani is one of the fastest 800-meter runners of all time, because he is. And yet, these guys can beat him. And they believe it. They know they can beat him. And as such, it's one of those that is always exciting. So there you go. That was the 800. Now the men's 5,000 was perhaps the most exciting race of the year so far, at least for us.
Yeah, but it was also touted. It was different though than it was originally touted because there were late withdrawals from Jakob Ingebrigtsen and Bahir Aragawi, and that changed the dynamic of the race because they had asked for world record pace.
Maybe not them specifically, but in general, we don't know who specifically asked for. I guess we don't know
who asked for it, but those are two that would be contenders to go after a world record.
And in the race still is Hagos Gebrewet, world number 2 all time, the second fastest ever in the distance, and Yamif Kejelcha, the 4th fastest ever in the distance. So if there's going to be a world record attempt, these are the guys who are going to attempt it. It by no means is disappointing when the withdrawals happened. So what that means then is the pace lights are set to world record and the pacers are told to run the pace lights. And it's just always a big question, is the field going to go with them? Like who has the guts to try? And the answer is all of them. Like they did not hesitate to go with it. It shocked me. We're watching this race, and I'm thinking to myself, there are people here who don't belong. Like, they should not be running world record pace and look okay doing it. And yet
running
they
their
were.
3K PR.
Right.
pace.
Right. So in order to run the world record pace in the 5,000 meters, you have to run 7:30 something through 3,000 meters, which is by itself fast enough to win most 3,000 meter races at a global level right now. That's shocking. And so here they go. And first to chase the Pacers is, unsurprisingly, Yamif Kejelcha.
Yeah,
He's known to do that. He likes to be right at the front of these Diamond League races, but also he is fearless. He will run any pace until he can't anymore, and has always done that. That's part of the reason why he has set other world records in his career, including indoors. I think he set the indoor mile record at one point in time. He doesn't hold it anymore, but did set that. So Kejelcha chases the Pacers, but Kejelcha was starting to struggle with about 800, a little more than half a mile to go. And it was Great Britain's George Mills who took over after that. And he goes to the front, and I'm watching this race, and I'm thinking, this isn't right. This is not what should be happening right now. We are used to just watching Ethiopians and Kenyans run world record paces for the men's 5,000, because that's what it's been for years. Ethiopians and Kenyans are vying for that. And then you get, Joshua Cheptegei and occasionally Ugandan in there. And so when a British runner takes the lead in a world record pace event, we're double taking for a moment there. And then, of course, everyone watching is wondering, can he actually do what he's doing right now? Like, is he going to die hard in the next lap or so? But he looked good. He looked strong. And who was right behind him? USA's Nico Young. Nico Young, who's only run under 13 minutes, twice maybe?
I don't know how many times.
And not very far under 13 minutes. So then Nico Young's chasing George Mills on world record pace. And once again, we're watching this thinking, this doesn't fit. This isn't right. But the most incredible part about it was, with a lap to go, they clearly were not going to get world record anymore. They had faded just a bit in the last 800, but not a lot. Like, they were fading, but they were not fading hard. And that just means that with a lap to go, there were enough guys there that it was a serious race. And it was one of the most exciting final 400 meters I've seen in a long time in a race. Who took it? Who did it? Who did it, Andy?
Well, on the final turn of the final lap, it was Nico Young who ended up taking that final turn, claiming the lead, and running all the way to the finish line to claim a Diamond League victory and a U.S. record.
Outdoor record.
12:45.
12:45 U.S. outdoor record. That's better than Grant Fisher's outdoor record. The second fastest 5,000 ever run by an American. Fisher's indoor world record is faster by 1 second. And also, if you recall, when we were watching Grand Slam track and Nico Young ran, was it the 3,000 that he ran in? He ran one event in the Grand Slam track, and his kick was vicious. And I watched that, and I was like, that dude is ready to win races right now. He is ready. And then he shows up here in a world record attempt race, and he's sticking it out. And I'm like, oh, man, the longer Nico Young's in this race, the more I think he's got a chance. And he did something that no American has done for like around 50 years.
Yeah. So Let's Run did the work on this, and they said nearly 50 years. It's been nearly 50 years since an American has run within 10 seconds of the world record and won a European 5,000.
So what they're saying is a race that was that fast, and they won. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
There's more records, so let's get to those
going.
too. I mean, we're dwelling on Nico Young because that was so big, but also George Mills, even though he didn't win the race, he was rewarded for that surge he made because he ran 12:46.59 to break Mo Farah's British record, which is a big deal.
Wow. Yep. So then behind them, USA's Graham Blanks also ran under 12:50, 12:48 for number 3 on the U.S. all-time list now, behind Grant Fisher and Nico Young. And the first time ever, obviously, that more than one American's run under 12:50 in a single race. which is by itself shocking, but also that was a monster performance for Graham Blanks, like kind of out of nowhere. And
it's cool.
Just really bodes well for the 5,000 meters in the global competitive scene here. Now, that said, also, like the whole entire field, 13 men, there were two or three after this, so there were 16 total, but 13 men ran under 13 minutes in this race.
One of them was Cooper Tier, and I mention it because it wouldn't have been that long ago that he would have been getting a U.S. record with that time. 12:57.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been quite a long time ago. But
since the early 2000s.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it's a fast time. It should be noted.
Yeah, that. So, Young won the race. It was the young Ethiopian Biniam Maharian second, who ran 12:45.9. By the way, that is the world number 2 under 20 all time, behind only Salomon Barega, who has the world under 20 record, and there's only a second faster. So that's really saying something too. And then we mentioned Mills' British record, number 2 Spanish performance for Thierry Ndikamunayo, and that's only behind Mo Katir, who is a cheat. And it's possible that he was cheating when he set the record, because
it's hard not to suspect that now that he's been caught.
Right. Yeah. So Ndikamunayo is feeling good about that performance, no doubt. And then 5 Ethiopian men in this one race ran under 12:50.
Wow.
5.
Man, if they were scoring as a team, that would be nuts.
Right? Oh, that's good. A Swiss record also for Dominic Lobalu. So you had 3 national records, technically speaking, in that race. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, not last one. Another one for Oslo is the women's steeple.
Yeah. It didn't go out fast. I don't know why, actually. Probably, why? Why do you think of that?
Probably because Yavi wasn't in the race.
Okay.
And so Faith Chirodich, who has been battling with Yavi, is now...
She was in it.
Faith Chirodich... Oh,
wait,
you're saying...
Yavi was in it.
Yavi wasn't it. Oh, I'm thinking of a different race.
Yeah.
Too many Diamond Leagues.
Yeah, it didn't go out fast. And it kind of looked like Yavi wanted to be a kicker. And because she's really good at that typically, but she has the likes of Faith Chirodich, who is also a really good kicker, and it came down to the final stretch, and it ended up being Faith Chirodich who outkicked Winfred Yavi.
Again, this is the second time she's done that this season, and Chirodich is definitely looking like she's in top form.
Yeah.
And in terms of global steeple competitiveness. But watch out. We'll tell you who and why and how when we get to the NCAA championships, because 9:02 for Faith Chirodich is a strong time. We're not down into like real intense territory yet when they're running under 9 minutes, but they will be shortly. Mm-hmm. Oslo meeting record also for Chirodich. And a number of Americans opened up for their steeple season debuts and looked pretty strong. So we'll come back to that next time around. Let's talk about the men's mile. This was wild and crazy. And once again, it goes back to like, if we were to tell you, who do you think won this mile? And we listed all the people who were in the start line of the race, you would not have predicted the one who won the race. And it's just speaking to the level of global competitiveness in this event. We just keep saying it because that's just simply true. 5 national records were broken in this race. 5 different national records were broken in this race, and these are all athletes that on any day could win medals. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
So the early days in the race, once again, Timothy Cheruiyot, we said it with Rome and we're saying it again with Oslo, he's looking like his former self. He's just looking good, and with a lap to go at the bell, Cheruiyot was in the lead, but everyone was still there. It was a tight race. So, no, Cheruiyot did not ultimately take this one, and yet he was just as close as anybody else. But in the final stretch, the pack of guys is out almost to lane 4.
Yeah,
just
it was.
Spread wide. It was
did.
A mad
Not almost.
sprint.
It was in lane 4. I actually took a second look at that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I watched the video again, and like there were parts of the race where they were 4 across. Oh. Like a couple times, but then in the final stretch, we actually had a runner in lane 4.
Right on. Yeah, so you've got things like on the back straight, Elliot Giles like goes to the lead, Great Britain, to try to like really start kicking it in, but he doesn't even finish in the top 5, and he's there with 250 meters to go, and yet he doesn't even finish top 5. That's how crazy these kicking milers are. And so here's what happens with 100 meters to go. It was Portugal's Isaac Nader who takes the lead and just powers down that home straight. And once more, just watching this thinking, who is that? What is he doing right now? That would not have predicted. So a Portuguese national record for Nader and the victory, the Diamond League victory.
It's crazy because they had all been so close that it made it look like when he won, it made it look dominant, even though he's only half a second ahead of the next 2 guys. But it's because they had been so bunched up. So to see any amount of space between the runners was like, I don't know, it just kind of emphasized it to me.
Yeah, he did. His last 75 meters was pretty dominant because everyone was kicking fast, and he just continued to accelerate, which is really impressive. Mm-hmm. But the sneaky move by Australia's Cam Myers was the most unexpected result, because Cam Myers, with 100 meters to go, was in like 7th place, and he was trapped. He was on the rail, totally surrounded by guys. And yet, he finished 2nd in the race. And the question is, how did that happen? Because everyone started moving out to pass and to get around people and create space, and Cam Myers just stayed on the rail. This 19-year-old kid, just calm, cool, and collected, and just ran right up the inside and caught everyone except for Nader.
That happens so often. It happens so often.
It does. Way too often. This is the rule. It was one of the things that...
Hug the rail.
Yeah, one of the things that Rod Wortley should get credit for instilling in his athletes. Do not drift out when you're running down the final straight, because you give someone else the shortest line on the rail if you do that. And it happens time and time again at every level, and this is an example. Cam Myers ran a new personal best outdoors. It was not an Australian record. Ali Hoare still holds that record for outdoor. Cam Myers has run faster indoors, but... Then in 3rd place, Stefan Nielsen of the Netherlands ran a Dutch record, 3:49, and it was Chariot then in 4th place, as noted. But Robert Farken runs yet another national record in 5th place for Germany. He ran 3:49. We got to give you these splits, because 3rd, 4th, and 5th place were all 1/10 of a second apart.
That's what I was saying. There was like a madhouse
separating them.
Mad dash.
In 9th place, Samuel Pilström of Sweden. We just mentioned his name because both he and Farken set 1,500 records in Rome. He also set the Swedish 1-mile record here for
Oslo.
Yeah, for 3:49. And then in 10th place, Federico Riva of Italy set an Italian record as well. All of them under 3:50.
The only one who did not run a personal best was Timothy Chariot.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Of the top 10.
Well, no, not the only one of the top 10, but
wait,
the only.
See, they're all national records or personal best.
I know, but these aren't all in sequence.
Oh, gotcha.
We skipped a few places.
Okay.
All right. Well.
Sorry. Okay, I'm wrong.
Fast times on the Diamond League, and there's a lot more to say about it, but we're gonna come back to that next time because.
There's more
we
Diamond
want to break
League.
it up. There's always going to be more Diamond League. So now we want to move on to the NCAA championships, which happened recently as well. And we teased this in the introduction because the NCAA championships is one of the most exciting track meets to watch because you do not know how it's going to go. Like in the world stage, there's a handful of people that it's very unlikely they won't medal in the races. Like they're just that good, right? They're that good in that season at least. But in the NCAA, it's not that simple.
Well, it's fun because that's where a lot of developing occurs, right? The development of the athletes and how they race, and they're learning it. They're getting a hang of it. They've now been able to practice it at a higher level for a while. And so things start clicking, they come together, and it's all at different times. So you might see an emerging athlete have a breakout race, and it's really exciting to see.
Yeah, it's one of the virtues of an amateur league. although it's not an amateur league anymore because now they're paying
People get
them.
paid.
I have lots of thoughts about that, but it doesn't matter. No one cares about Zach's thoughts on the NCAA paying athletes. So how about we go day by day? This is the structure of the meet, so we'll share it that way. They did an interesting setup here, which I don't know if they have been doing this for a few years now or exactly when they started, but the NCAA does all men's races or events on one day, and then the next day all women's races, and then the next day they're back to men, all men's races, all women's races, a 4-day meet. And that's a fascinating structure. It seems to make sense for a number of reasons, but because of that, we're going to go back and forth following the order that they went in the races. So the men's 10,000 was the first distance final. It was slow. It was boring because no one wanted to lead, and they just ran really slowly the whole time until basically the last lap. And so literally with a lap to go, everyone was there in a giant clump, and it was just chaos. It was mass chaos. But New Mexico's duo of champions, Ishmael Kipkurui and Habtum Samuel, somehow found themselves in the right positions with a lap to go, and they both have incredible kicks, and that much was evident. So Kipkurui, who holds the current NCAA record in the 10,000 meters, won over his teammate, his schoolmate, his teammate, won over Habtum Samuel, and so they went 1-2 and a solid 1-2 punch.
Good on New Mexico, yeah.
Right? Well, we're not done talking about New Mexico, because in the women's 10,000, NC State's Grace Hartman made it an honest race, unlike the men's race, and just went for it. And like nobody could run with her, except for Pamela Koske of New Mexico. And so with a very aggressive first half, Grace Hartman had kind of blown up the race, which was probably the plan all along. But Pamela Koske had an extra gear and put the hurt on Hartman late in the race, and Hartman couldn't quite hold with her. And so Koske ran away with the title. And not terribly surprising, because Pamela Koske, though a freshman at New Mexico, has an incredible pedigree in the U20 global scene as a U20 junior world cross-country champion and other things. So this being Koske's first NCAA title of the year, which was probably the surprising part, that she did not win other titles yet. She clearly looked the part, though, in this one, and broke the previous championship record by nearly 30 seconds.
Wow, that's a lot. Substantial.
It is. And Hartman was also under the previous championship record. Actually, like the first 5 were under the previous championship record, which is probably all credit Hartman with that aggressive running. And as it were, Hartman herself was the only finisher in the top 11 who did not run a personal best. And she didn't miss it by much, but that's saying something.
What place did she end up being?
Second.
Okay.
Yep. Second. So gutsy run, very impressive stuff. Paid off in some senses, and didn't take the victory, but got pretty close. Next up is the men's 1500. So this is now we're not back to the next day. The men's 1500 was perhaps the most star-studded and competitive 1500 meter fields in a long time, if not ever, in the NCAA.
I feel like it's been studded every year.
The 1500?
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but this was exceptionally so. You've got new NCAA record holder Liam Murphy in the field. His teammate, NCAA number 2 all time, but didn't opt to run the 1500. You've got an indoor champion in Abel Tefra. You've got the indoor NCAA record holder in Ethan Strand. You've got the past 1500 meter champion Nathan Green. You've got an Olympian Adam Spencer from Australia who runs for Wisconsin. Gary Martin, who has NCAA titles. So, these are all the people in this one race. And I didn't even mention all of the notables. So it's pretty crazy. But what's even more crazy is that a significant number of those stars did not even make the final. Liam Murphy, who's the NCAA record holder, did not make final. Colin Salmon of NAU, who has run some of the fastest times ever, did not make final. The indoor mile champion, Abel Tefra, did not make the final. It's
odd.
These are incredible runners, but just
didn't have it.
Well, the wrong tactics at the wrong time in a semifinal, and then there you have it. But it still is a stacked field come final. You've got Gary Martin, Strand, Green, Spencer, and others. And so it was slow. It was
Why?
exactly what the men's mile always is.
They love to run for the kick. They
Every
love to run
miler
tactically.
thinks they have the best kick.
They do.
Especially in the NCAA. This is one of those examples of Andy mentioned that it's nice having the NCAA because like athletes learn how to compete and such. And this is one of those where you learn real fast to stop letting a mile be slow because you're not the fastest kicker. You're just not. Someone in that race is, and it's not you. There's only one, and there's a lot of people in the race. So don't do that. Well, they did that, and and true to be told, less than 3/4 of a second separated first through 11th place.
Madhouse again.
It was
Do
insane.
they love that?
The finish line, the finish line picture of this race is one of the coolest finish line pictures ever because there's just this giant clump of men all crossing the line at the same time. It's really something. As a matter of fact, there were 12 in the final. 12th place, who was only a touch slower than the rest of them, basically, he's just more than 3/4 of a second behind first. And so he was still right
It could have
there.
been anybody.
Could have been anybody. But it wasn't. It was Nathan Green of Washington, who is no stranger to winning because he has won the outdoor 1500 before. Not last year, but I think the year before. And Nathan Green, who is known to have a strong kick, which, everyone is, right? All these milers. But he particularly has won slow kicking races quite a few times. So this is what's important. Nathan Green is not the fastest runner in this field. As a matter of fact, he's not even close to the fastest runner in this field. Gary Martin, Ethan Strand, Adam Spencer, they've all got better times. They should have made it a fast race, but they didn't, and Nathan Green beat them because of it. Although I will say, Ethan Strand probably would have won that race if he was smarter. But he was stuck with a lap to go. Actually, not even a lap to go. With 200 meters to go, he was stuck and couldn't get out and couldn't really turn his kick up all the way until like 75 meters to go when he finally broke free. And he was storming down, chasing everyone down. He would have caught Nathan Green if he had another 25, 40 meters. And so he finished second instead. There you go. That's
another
really
thing when you keep it for a kicker's race is that you can get stuck.
Yep. You just don't want to do that. You don't want to mess with that kind of a race. All right. Well, that's what happened. But the men's 3,000 meter steeple, which was next up in that day, kind of felt like a foregone conclusion this year because you had James Corrigan of BYU. Remember that story?
Olympian.
Right?
Yeah.
He had the last year of dreams.
So cool. Yeah.
Because he started the year like a decent steeplechaser and he ended the year an Olympian. And
so cool.
You got to say that's about as good as it gets. Well, he shows up into this meet yet again and he's healthy. And so now it's like, can anyone beat him? I mean, really? Can anyone beat him in this field? And the answer was no. But they got close. They came close. In fact, he almost bested Henry Rono's famous meet record, 8:12 from 1978.
Wow.
He ran 8:16, which is no shrug.
Can I just remind people of the story about James Corrigan, how he didn't have the world standard and he needed it. And so he had gotten third at the Olympic trials, the U.S. Olympic trials. And it was his teammate, Kenneth Rooks, who ended up, and he had won. Remember, he fell and he came back and he won. Oh, that was the year before.
Yes, that was the year before.
But he won. And
this was the year when Kenneth Rooks
just
won the silver medal in the Olympics.
Right, exactly.
Remember that part?
I do remember that part. But I love that story of teamwork because Kenneth Rooks then helped James Corrigan get the Olympic standard to then go to the Olympics.
Yeah. So that James Corrigan just won an NCAA title as well.
Yeah.
And
ran really fast.
Ran very fast. Men's 800, not a lot we want to say about it except for that the indoor champ, Matthew Erickson, looked like he was going to repeat outdoor, but was upset by Sam Whitmarsh of Texas A&M, I think. And so an impressive finish to take the NCAA title for himself. Okay, men's 5,000. Now, this is where you get to, it's the last day. A lot of these men ran the 10,000. They're doubling back.
That's so tough to do.
It is because you only have a couple of days between. And the ones who didn't double, if they're smart, they're going to go hard.
They should go hard.
Burn their
Gives them a
legs.
better shot.
Yeah. Well, they did. Finally, they make the smart choices. And this is where you get into... So this is why the NCAA is always so exciting, because you never know what's going to happen. But in this instance, if they would have left it up to, say, the kickers, you've got someone like Habtum Samuel, who is no stranger to running lots of races and winning a lot of them all at once. And so, like, you just don't want to take that chance. Well, Brian Musau of Oklahoma State is fresh for the 5,000, and he won the indoor title, and so he knows how to win races and did the right thing here. And so it ends up being a fast race. Musau takes the title to add to his collection over Habtum Samuel, who, even though he's doubling back, still finished second, and only by like hundredths of a second, or tenths of a second, I guess. So they were very close together. Interestingly, Marco Langen of Villanova finished third. He had opted to skip the 1,500. Remember that Langen was with teammate Liam Murphy. Together, they both broke the previous NCAA record. And yet, he decided to go for the 5,000 and Murphy for the 1,500, kind of split it up like that. Murphy didn't even make the final in the 1,500, and Langen ended up third.
Okay.
Not terrible, but that's kind of a tough meet for those guys. Now, moving on to the women's events.
Yeah, so the women's 1,500 meter run, and it was another stacked field. We know things have just been on the trajectory of better and better runners and more of them. We had indoor champ Margaret Appleton and the NCAA record holder Cillian Ayildiz. Can you say it? Sorry.
Shalon Ayildiz. Yes.
Shalon
Yep.
Ayildiz. But it was Washington's Irish Olympian Sophia O'Sullivan who ended up winning the race. Which she was on my radar, actually.
Well, something happens to an athlete when they run in the Olympics, and often can be the case that they just seem to compete at a new level.
Yeah, I mean, you have a title. You're an Olympian forever and always, right? Like, you go from being just another collegiate athlete to an Olympian. It changes.
And think about it like this, too. Like, Sophie O'Sullivan's on this start line, and she's looking around and she's thinking, I've raced against the very best milers on the planet. And these people aren't them. Now, that said, Shalon Ayildiz also was in those Olympics. So I'm not saying that she's the only Olympian on the start line. But it feels a little different, is kind of the nature of the moment. And for some, they rise to the occasion. Others don't necessarily. But Sophie O'Sullivan did. And Margot Appleton, who won the indoor title, finished second.
Mm-hmm. Women's steeplechase. We had 2 women that ran under the NCAA record.
This is what we were previewing earlier. We mentioned that sub-9 is like dangerous territory for women's steeple. There's actually 14 women ever who have run under 9 minutes, and some of them are currently on the scene, like able to do so right now, and we're seeing them performing well. And
one of them is Courtney Frericks, who's been on our podcast.
Yes, yeah. Although she's not running steeple currently and may not.
No,
ever
she's
again.
on the roads.
Yeah,
but I just wanted to note that because she's one of those few.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna add a new number to that. Well, actually, one of those 14. It was 13 prior to the NCAA championships, because Doris Lemgele, who is new to the NCAA and has demonstrated certainly a capacity for impressive performances, but you never would have predicted this. So I think it was in the preliminary round. Did they do a preliminary round for the steeplechase? No. They go straight to final. I can't remember. I can't remember.
I don't know.
No, it was earlier in the season. I'm remembering now. Earlier in the season, Doris Lemgele broke the NCAA record. It was a decent run. She ran 9:10, which is very impressive for the collegiate scene especially. But in this final, she demolished it yet again, running under 9 minutes, the 11th fastest time ever in the world for 8:58, and a full 12 seconds under her own NCAA record. But what's especially shocking is that she had company until late in the race. BYU's Lexi Halliday Lowry was ready to go, And she held on. She did not hold on the whole time. She held on to run under Lemgolet's previous record also for 9:08, number 2 in the NCAA, and also number 7 all-time on the U.S. list.
So just remember, if you fade in a race, it still might be a fast fade. So don't give up. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's just a reminder, because even if you get outkicked or you feel like you're fading in the last part of whatever race you're running, you still could be running the best you've ever done, and maybe the best that your school has ever done. Or it's just good to keep following through.
Right. For the women's 800, the NCAA meeting record was broken twice. First in the preliminary rounds.
Oh, wow.
And then again in the final, even faster. So you just know things are just that competitive, right? It always turns heads when someone breaks a record in a preliminary, but it also tends to fire up the competition. And that's what you saw here, where Roisin Willis, who did not run the record in the prelims, showed up big in the final. And Willis of Stanford ran 158.13 for a new meeting record, not altogether that far from the actual NCAA record. And indoor champion Michaela Page of UNC finished second, also under 159.
So Roisin Willis must be a senior, right?
She's a junior, I think.
How? I just feel like she's been on the scene forever.
That's because we started talking about her when she was in high school.
It's just amazing to me. I feel like she's so fast, too. Like,
Well,
158? 158 is so legit.
I do not believe it's a personal best for her, though. It's a meeting record, but not a...
I'm just saying. I'm impressed. And I keep feeling like she's got to be older than she is, because she's been doing this for so long.
That's how that goes. And the women's 5,000 to wrap up the NCAA champs. Pamela Koske completed the double. It's kind of anticlimactic to say it that way, but she didn't have any titles, and now she has multiple titles.
Wow, good for her.
Very impressive stuff.
She's a freshman, right? Did you say she's a freshman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't expect we'll see her run in the NCAA for very many years, but...
Well, it depends on how much they're paying her doing that, because, I mean, it really does depend, because the reason that people would forego the school and go pro is so they can make a salary. But if now they're getting paid while they're at school, then they don't have as much of a motivation to go pro.
Yeah, that's probably true. And the school's free, too, so that's a good thing. But this time, so Koske won the 10,000, and you figure you don't want it to be tactical. You want it to be fast to burn the legs off of those who ran the 10,000, but this one was not. They let it be slow, and Koske made them pay for it. And so there you have it. That was I should just note, it was really interesting to look at the 24 finishers for the women's 5,000. Only 4 of them were seniors. It was a young race. It's a young race. All right. Well, we got a quick lightning round of other updates for you, just things that have been happening lately that are very interesting. Jane Hedengren did it all.
Know her name. Remember her name.
She did everything.
Everything.
This year. She broke every single record that she could reasonably break. And every record attempt that she made, she succeeded. So that's kind of appalling, actually. So it's a little
How
bit.
are you so good?
It's a little bit bad that she did that.
It's not.
I don't know how I feel about it fully, but it is very impressive.
It's cool.
It's very exciting, and it's a little. So she didn't just break records; she demolished most of them. Like Jane Hedengren is like a different kind of creature than the rest of the humans that she ran against. And all of history in the U.S. high school scene.
She looks so graceful doing so as well.
Yeah, she also, looks like a professional runner.
She looks like a professional. She reminds me, I said this to Zach, she reminds me of Andy Frisbee a little bit.
Does she?
Yeah.
I don't remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, here's what she did in the last couple of weeks. She broke the mile record at the Hoka Festival of Miles. She ran the number 3 under 20 world performance.
And she's in high school.
Yeah. Well,
she's got a few more years under 20.
Right. She's not that far off of the U.S.
mile record.
Right. Like number 3
full-
in that. Number 3 in the U.S. mile scene also. I guess it's number 3 in both. Number 3 world under 20 and number 3 U.S. Or maybe it's just U.S. under 20 record. I'm getting confused about my numbers here because she did so many things. But she broke that record, the U.S. under 20 record, by, what was it? Double digits. She broke it by so much that no one else deserves to be on the list is basically what happened. And then she did the same thing in the 2 mile at the Brooks PR invite when she ran 9:17. She already held the 2 mile record from Arcadia this year. She broke her own record by 17 seconds.
Yeah.
So once again, they shouldn't be keeping a list anymore. They should just say Jane Hedengren and everyone
Period.
else. And just say other people.
That's terrible. She's number 8 all time with that.
On the U.S. all-time list.
All time.
Number 8. That's okay, but the 2 mile is a less competed event, and so it's understandable because in her 3,000 then at the Nike Outdoor Nationals, she broke the 3,000 U.S. under 20 record, the high school record as well. But on the U.S. all-time list, this was 30th or something. So it tells you she's not the best American runner ever. She's still a teenager, and yet she ran 14 seconds faster than anyone else has ever run in high school.
The best female child who's ever run.
Yeah, right. She ran 8:40, which she actually technically, you could say she had the 3,000 record because of her 3,000 meter split in her 2 mile record, which was significantly faster than Caitlin Tui's previous record. But now she officially also got it because this was even faster than that split.
14 seconds under Caitlin Tui's record.
Man. So what did Jade Hedengren do? Because she's done now, I think. I think that was her last. Yes,
well,
that was her last.
done.
Her last high school meet ever. And so here's what Jane Hedengren did this year. She ran the fastest time in cross country in a 5K ever run. Also broke course records like Caitlin Tui's course record and such. Because cross country is all about the course you're on. She broke all the indoor records: the mile, the 2 mile, the 3,000. She broke all those. And then she broke all the outdoor records: a mile, 1,500. I don't know if she ran that, but I'm just saying. So 2 mile, 3,000. So Jane Hedengren is now the most valuable high school female ever, and she is signed with what school is she signed with again?
Oh, I don't.
NC
I
State.
read it. I don't remember.
I think it's NC State. But it's one of the big dogs, one of the big women's distance running scenes. Maybe it's BYU. I can't remember. Anyway, we're not going to misreport it here for you, but we're going to basically say, watch out. Here we go. Because she's also run faster than. Oh, I forgot to say the 5,000. She broke the 5,000 record indoors and outdoors as well.
She's got a range.
Yeah, she is just as fast as the fastest collegiate.
Wow.
Runners.
Yeah,
ever. That's what you get to look for. Shalon Ayildiz broke the NCAA mile record. Remember, indoors. It was this time.
Oh.
It was the same time.
Wow.
She ran the same time as the collegiate record. So,
crazy.
Yeah.
Speaking of people that were fast in high school, Donovan Brazier, who was fast in high school.
He's not just fast in high school.
No, I'm just saying that he was also fast in high school, and he turned out to be the 2019 world champion in the 800 and American record holder at the time. He is back with an exclamation point or a question mark. That's what Zach put. Exclamation point.
Is he back?
I think he is. I think that there are a lot of good signs pointing his way with a time of 1:43 that he ran at the Portland Track Fest.
That is impressive.
As one of his 2 strong races.
Yes. But I actually think more impressive than that time is what happened in the race.
Tell me more.
He negative split.
Oh, yeah. He negative split that race.
With 300 meters to go, he just had a whole nother gear or range of gears and just was flying.
I know many of you are distance runners who listen to this podcast, and we typically like to negative split. That's more common within the realm of distance running. It is not nearly as common for an 800-meter runner to negative split.
It's actually generally not even good strategy in the 800. It depends, but often not good strategy to try to negative split because it's just so difficult to actually do so at the kinds of speeds that they're running. So if you try to negative split, you tend to just be too far back in the first
So
half.
what that might be saying about Donovan Brazier is that he might have more to give, which would not be surprising, seeing as how he has not got to practice racing. He has not been in races to help him fine-tune his event in a very long time. He's had a long series of injuries, and so it's good to see him on the track and running so fast and negative splitting too.
True. All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes on him. We would anyway, but we'll let you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there was a USATF road circuit race, the 4-mile championships, and the winners are the same ones we've been seeing a lot of. Taylor Rowe for the women and Alex Mayer for the men. And Rowe won in yet another U.S. road best. She's been doing that a fair bit.
She has.
This year. See, Taylor Rowe did the thing that most collegiate runners don't do. She... instead of going straight to the track and trying to run professionally on the track, she went basically right out of college to the roads. And as a result, she's just crushing it. And that might have been a good choice.
Yeah.
Last one. In the 800 meters and the high school scene, we're kind of bouncing around a little bit here, but we got to at least mention Cooper Lutkenhouse. We've brought him up on the show before, but here he is, a high schooler. I don't even think he's a senior. I think he's a sophomore or junior. He's not yet done with high school this year. He broke the 800-meter high school record indoors and broke it again outdoors. He's actually broken it, I think, multiple times outdoors and ended at the Nike Outdoor Nationals in 145.45. No other high schooler in U.S. history has run under 146. And he's under it.
Fast.
Very fast.
All right, now on to our A to Z runner updates before we do a fun riveting game of running trivia with AI. So
True that.
Keep listening.
Stick
This will be
around.
quick. Mm-hmm.
All right. At the Dow Run Walk, Bill was first in his age group in both the 5K and 10K. Congrats, Bill. And second overall in those doing the duo.
Mm-hmm. And at the LPGA 5K, Mike was second in age group. Lorenda ran a big personal best. Andrew ran for My Team Triumph. That's duo running. Jared, Mary, and Kyle also ran strong races.
At the Deemer Run 5K, same day as the LPGA in another place and time, Brian ran a personal best, finished third in his age group, and Ethan also finished that one strong.
Mm-hmm. CJ and Paul ran the Wisco Mile.
At the Vitality 5K, Mary was first, female, across the line. Nice work, Mary.
And then we had the Charlevoix Marathon in Michigan, and Elijah and Robert both ran fast races there.
Violet ran the Ludington Lake Stride Half. Dan was first in his age group at the Grand Explorers 10K. And Brian ran in the Michigan Ragnar. That's a team trail relay.
Violet was second overall female, too, in her race. We didn't mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Violet was second.
And Zach and I both did the LPGA 5K. And I ran for the first time in many years with my friend Janelle as part of a duo team.
Andy was saying that earlier because Andrew did the same thing.
Yeah.
What that means is she is pushing the wheelchair.
Yeah, it's like a chariot, a racing chair. And that was a really special thing. And it brought us both a lot of joy to run together again. We were college teammates. And then Zach also ran LPGA 5K, and he wouldn't want me to tell you this.
We are moving on to
won the race.
AI trivia segment. So this is our favorite thing to talk about or to do on the show because it is a little bit of a competition, a little bit of fun, and we are not excellent at it. And so those of you who are playing along, you got a chance to beat us for sure. So here's what we do. We ask the trivia question. We ask the AI to give us trivia questions about some topic and multiple choice, and then we try to answer them and see who gets the most right. We do 2 or 3 questions each week, and current standings are Zach has 6 points, Andy has 5 points. So it's a tight game. We have to decide on prizes and or consequences for those who lose after
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, we're gonna figure something out. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
You know so much more than no.
I'm only winning by 1 point.
I know. I've gotten lucky.
Not at all.
We're both actually doing terribly. That's really what.
Well, let's go ahead and welcome our special guest back. Hey, AI person, you are back with our A to Z running audience. Go ahead and say hello to the audience.
Hello again, everyone. It's great to be back with all of you at A to Z Running. I'm excited to join in on the fun once more, and I hope you're all ready for some more great running conversations.
We are at that. Thanks. So here's what we want for our topic of trivia today. Remember the rules of the trivia game. We're going to give you a topic. You're going to ask us one question at a time. We're going to try to answer it, and you'll tell us if we get it right or wrong. And when you give us the options, give us 4 choices, one of them being the correct option, and we'll do our best to answer them. Okay, so the topic that we are interested in today for the trivia is the history of the women's mile. Go ahead and give us the first question.
All right, let's dive into the women's mile. Here's your first question. Who was the first woman to run a sub 4:20 mile in an officially recognized race? Here are your options. A, Mary Decker, B, Paula Ivan, C, Svetlana Mastakova, or D, Zola Budd. What do you think?
Oh, goodness. Do you have a guess? You have to guess in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, we both guessed the third option, which I don't even remember how to say her name, but what was the correct answer?
Well, you both guessed correctly. Svetlana Mastakova is indeed the answer. She was the first woman to break that 4-minute and 20-second barrier in the mile. Great job.
All right, points for Andy and Zach today. We're off to a good start. Okay, give us the next question.
All right, let's keep that momentum going. Here's the next question. In what year did the women's mile become an official event at the World Athletics Championships? Here are your options. A, 1980, B, 1983, C, 1987, or D, 1991. Let's see what you think.
This is the women's 1 mile or the women's metric mile, the 1,500 meters?
You're right. I should clarify that. The 1,500 meters, often called the metric mile, became an official women's event at the World Athletics Championships in 1983. So if you picked 1983, you'd be correct.
I was gonna guess that.
That's what I was gonna guess too, but we can't. You can't retroactively get a point. Okay, all right. Well, thank you for clarifying. I should have asked for the clarification after we made our guesses. Okay.
I was gonna guess 83.
Go ahead with another question.
No worries at all. All right, let's try another one. Which athlete currently holds the women's world record for the mile? Here are your options. A, Sifan Hassan, B, Faith Kipyegon, C, Gonzalo Dibaba, or D, Paula Radcliffe. Let's see what you think.
I like the Paula Radcliffe toss in there. All right, we know. Do you know, Andy?
Yes, it's Faith Kipyegon
is our guess.
And that is absolutely correct. Faith Kipyegon is indeed the current world record holder for the women's mile. Great job, you two.
Right on. Bonus points if you know what time it is. What's the current world record?
Oh.
A bonus point is on the table.
Zach actually knows.
Okay,
So that's
well
why
then
you
a
can't
bonus
do a
point's not on the table. I thought you did. Is the record 4:07?
You're super close. The current world record for the women's mile set by Faith Kipyegon is actually 4 minutes and 7.64 seconds. So you were right on the mark with that guess.
All right, let's go with one more question for this trivia topic.
Sounds great. Here's one more for you. Which country has produced the most women's mile world record holders over the years? Here are your options. A, the United States, B, Russia, C, Great Britain, or D, Kenya. What do you think?
All right. What's your guess? Do you have a guess?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Kenya.
Oh, I'm guessing Russia. Okay, what's the correct answer?
Well, the correct answer is actually Russia. Russia has had multiple women's mile world record holders over the years. So well done if you guessed Russia.
How many of them have been cheaters?
I was going to ask.
Oh, sorry.
I know that the history of track and field has had its share of controversies, and there have been a few athletes who faced doping allegations, but we also have so many incredible and clean athletes to celebrate as well.
Oh, that's very political of you.
No, but
All right.
of those world records, how many of those ended up being had doping violations?
It's a good question, and there have definitely been a few records that were clouded by doping violations over the years, but there are also many records that stand strong and are completely clean. It's always good to celebrate the achievements of those who competed fairly.
Oh, absolutely. But would there be more Kenyan?
Would
there be more Kenyan world records?
It's not gonna know. All right. Well, thank you for what turned out to be even more controversial topic than we would have guessed. That was lots of fun. Go ahead and say goodbye to the audience.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you all for joining in and for all the great questions. We'll see you next time, and happy running, everyone.
So here's why. This is what you get it there as the AI was talking to us, is it gets into this pattern where it doesn't want to answer your question, but it won't tell you that it doesn't want to answer your question. And so that's one of those where it's not going to tell you if people were accused of doping violations after the fact, and because it doesn't want to get into that. So
well, I think maybe I could still be right.
well, it's I guess we could probably parse it. It wouldn't be very hard to check all the history of the records and who's been accused of things. All right, so the new standings now sit as, did I get all 3 points today?
You did.
I did.
You did.
That's the first. Zach with 9 points. Andy with 7. Going strong. Maybe we should do like a 1st to 10 thing and then just reset every time we get to 10. Right? We'll come up with something. All right.
I'd have to get them all right next time to win.
So here's the deal. If you're playing along, as we've been saying, let us know when you're scoring points and how many you're scoring. And also, if you have a topic that you would like us to do for the AI trivia segment, feel free to share it. Many more people have been reaching out and sharing thoughts and comments about various things, and we're getting some comment traffic occasionally through like the Spotify and YouTube platforms as well. So all of those are great places to share thoughts if you would like to do so, and we'd love to feature some of your topic choices if that is the case.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.